sky right here. So what you're going to do is the same as you did with the model, and get your lasso tool and go around the fish and select the fish. And then once you have the fish selected, you're going to drag him over to your original file and put him in. But when you put him in, he's going to be very bright and he's not going to look like he belongs there at all. So you have to make sure that the fish are under the water, and to do that you want to bring your water up and over the fish. So now it looks like they're underwater. You also want to make sure that your fish aren't completely at opacity 100% so that it's more realistic. I also added some flowers. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I added some flowers into my picture, and I think the flowers are really cute. You can add some more if you want to make it more girly or more fantasy if you want, but make sure that the opacity is also not at 100%. I have it at 80 here on one, and I have it on 100 here, but you can see that it's kind of fake, and this one looks more like it belongs, just to show you guys how little things can affect the greater picture. Oh, I'm missing a fish. So I have all my fish and my lily pads and my flowers, so I really like how the pond's looking. So I'm going to close the pond up, and I'm going to go into some other elements that help create the overall effect, which is this. So the other elements that I added were light. Now I'm going to come back to light at the end, but right now you can see that I put some light on her skin. See? Light, no light, light, no light, light, no light. And I put it directly on this half of her, because if you look here, this is where the sun is coming in from. So you want to make sure that you draw light in the same angle as the original pictures, because this picture here did not have the same lighting. It looks a little bit different than the other one, and you want to make them look like they flow seamlessly together. They don't want to look at two images, they just pasted on top of each other. You want to make sure that it's a seamless connection. Another way you can make sure that it's not so obvious that they're two different pictures is to add little details like moss. As you can see, the moss in this picture is everywhere. And if there was no moss, oops, I missed a flower. If there was no moss in this half, it just looks awkward. Like, now that I've pointed it out, you can probably tell. Like, lots of moss, no moss. That wouldn't happen in nature. So how I added the moss is different than the actual tutorial. The actual tutorial tells you to take a certain stock image of moss and use your clone stamp tool, which is this guy right here, and paste the picture all over the rocks. Now I thought this looked really fake and tacky, so what I did was I took the picture that she wanted me to use of moss and I made it into a brush. And then when I had that brush made, I don't have it on this computer, it's a preset that I made myself, I took my foreground color and changed it to a green so that it would paint in on the rocks in a mossy green color. I used a mask to do this to make sure that it was nice. I also didn't have it on normal, because if you look at how the moss looks on normal, you can tell I painted that in and it looks weird. So I have it on overlay. I really like overlay. I also have more moss on this side because it seems to be a lot thicker over by the waterfall than it does on this side. So the moss isn't it's really up to your own judgment how much you want, how dark you want it to be, what color of green you want it to be. So just kind of have fun with the moss. Another thing that I did to make it more of a flowing image was add fog. Now, boom, right away you're going to be like, that is too much fog. And how I did this was actually really interesting, and I messed it up a couple times. But you're going to go up and filter, and you're going to use noise, and you're going to make the whole image black, and it's going to look like a scene from outer space, and it's going to be weird. But then what you do is you create a mask with it, and on the mask I had the opacity when I was painting it in a very, very low, I think it was like 10% opacity, and that way it's it doesn't look like it's black smudges of gray and grossness. What I also did was I created a Control-Alt-Shift-E layer and screened the fog onto it with an opacity of 67%. This takes down the effect of the fog and makes it more realistic. I like how the fog turned out at the end. You can see like little puffs of it, and there's a lot more over where the waterfall would be and on the rocks. But you can really, just like the moss, it's up to your own judgment how much you want to have or not. And finally, just going back to light. Light's something that's very iffy. I'm going to put my color values in. 2, 4, 3, 215, and 59. And I like this color of yellow. You can pick your own color of yellow, have fun, use your own judgment. And I'm going to pick a soft brush. And I'm going to change the opacity down to 38%. It's an awkward number. Really, you can do whatever you want. I'm also then going to make my brush larger. A little bit larger. There. So I'm going to make a large brush. And you know that the light's coming in from this direction. So you want to make sure... You want to make sure that... Oh. You want to make sure that your brush is selected. And once you have your brush selected, you're going to want to get a soft brush. And you're going to want to make it kind of big. There. I like this size. And you know that the light is coming in from this direction. So you're going to just... Ooh, you're going to make sure that the opacity is down. I picked 38%. It's really up to your own judgment. Whatever you think looks best. So, and then you just paint it in. So, see, that looks really fake. So then you can do like Control-Z. And you just fiddle around with it until you find something you like. So you have the light coming in from this direction. You might have a little more off like certain faces of the rocks. Like I've already done so here. You can kind of see, but you can just add more. And I'm doing it really messy right now, really sloppy. But you want to take your time, and you gotta remember that it's the small details in Photoshop that really make something great. You never want to do something too big and too out there. It's just tiny little adjustments that make it look really nice. So once you've added your light and any other adjustments that you want, you should get your final image. This is what mine looked like. I really like it. I don't think it's too dark or anything. I used a pass-through on it because that's what it looked like originally. Didn't really like that. So thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, to do this tutorial, you're going to need to know how to make brushes. You're going to need to know how to use masks. And you got to have a lot of creativity. None of these are ever really going to look exactly 100% the same. You can do your own thing. Like, I added a lot of stuff that she didn't use. You can use different images, different settings, just different fish. Maybe you want koi fish because, you know, goldfish aren't usually in ponds. You can do anything you want with it, really. Just like the sky's the limit. Just go for it and have fun. I hope that I was helpful in showing you how to create this image, and that I wish you the best of luck in creating your own. Thanks for listening.